Now, Dr. McFadgen, you sent me a message asking, do people play tennis anymore? It was the hallmark once upon a time in Australia of being well off to have a tennis court in your backyard, or churches and local halls would have tennis courts. And it used to be such a popular pastime. So, Paul says, I'm not sure where you got the idea that tennis has dropped off. The Redcliffe and North Lakes area has almost every school with tennis courts, and most are open on the weekends. I play with my son at a new council court for just $5 an hour.
Wow. Well, that's good to know. I mean, the reason I had one of those sort of strange old person's memories the other day, which was, I remember always sort of growing up that in the sort of hall cupboard, there was a couple of tennis rackets sitting there. And I probably think...
And a container of tennis balls.
A few tennis balls. And I'm old enough that they were those old wooden rackets that were in a sort of a clamp. You used to put them into a sort of a clamp so they didn't bend while they were in storage. And I think probably growing up in the 50s, every house in the suburbs of Melbourne, if you looked in their hall cupboard, there were a couple of tennis rackets there. I mean, my parents sort of met playing tennis in a country town. My mother was a school teacher in a local country town, and my father was a bank teller, both sort of not from that town, but sent there, living sort of boarding in a hotel, and they and other people of their, I suppose, in the late 20s or whatever, would go to work, and after work they'd go and have a game of tennis. It was sort of like the big pastime for people of that generation.
I'm told that once upon a time, the reason why Australia, in the 50s and 60s in particular, was so good that because land was cheap in Australia,
yes,
and we had an abundance of land, Australians grew up playing tennis, and so Australia did, really quite well during the 50s and 60s and 70s.
It was sort of expected. I mean, I was sent off to do sort of tennis coaching when I was about 12. I spent several years doing that. I still can't...
Another qualification to your extensive CV?
No, I can't I still can't hit the ball. I mean, I still I still swing wildly and just miss the ball by, like by 30 centimetres. But it was sort of expected. It was not just a pastime. It was a sort of a social thing. It was so many, and I could say that my mother and father sort of met each other playing tennis, and even kids would come home from school and then change into and go and have a game of tennis. And it was I'm glad to hear that there are these courts around. I'm not so sure about people today, maybe under 30, whether they're all playing tennis. I'm just wondering whether tennis is... I mean, everyone gets to watch tennis, but of course, you had a caller earlier who said something I think is very important.
Watching sport is not the same as getting the benefit from playing sport.
And also, what's happened is things like tennis have become highly specialised. I mean, when my parents played tennis, it wasn't like watching, Djokovic or Andrew Agassi serving the ball at 6,000 kilometres a second. These were friendly, pleasant kind of games. Oh, sorry, I missed kind of things. I mean, it was a four-hander game or a two-hander game that was just for fun. And that aspect of sport not being for superstars, not being a kind of a superhero where you watch people who can play for 8 hours indefatigably and put fire that ball through a wall of concrete, it's taken over.
Brendan,
I'm enjoying the insight into your view of tennis. People in white says, "Oh, Johnny, good shot. Let's go have a glass of lemon squash."
Maybe I'm deluded, and that was the kind of originally it was just a pastime.
And the wooden tennis rackets in their frames in the cupboard. I'm told now, Ian, that some of the younger players of today's, your John McEnroes and your Bjorn Borgs and some of those young modern players actually play with tennis rackets that aren't wooden anymore, that they're other materials.
I don't know. I'm not up with all this newfangled stuff.
I can tell you as a sample of one, which I know is not statistically significant, but...
Never let the facts get in the way of our discussions.
Well, exactly. Well, I remember from my economics lecture, EC 134, with Dr. Anthony Silvanathan years ago, that a statistically significant sample needs to be 200 plus. But my sample of one is, yes, people still play tennis. Indeed, I played tennis last night.
Glenda on Russell Island. Last night? Wow, hey, some research.
Yes.
Glenda on Russell Island says, Mum and Dad played social tennis in Bundy, that's Bundaberg, Ian, when I was a child. I played when we moved to Brizzy. That's Brisbane, Ian.
Ted Bundy.
Mal Anderson had a court at his home in Alderley Heights, and I played for years. Our son was about 8, and we had 4 Gold Coast courts at Pimpamar. So I loved taking him up there for a hit. One such outing, I tried to ace my grandson and corked my thigh. Very painful. My son got me to the seats off the court where a dear chap said how lovely he took care of his grandma. We took up kayaking. I'm almost 74 now and have not played since. Glenda, lovely story. Thank you very much.
That's lovely. I'm glad to use this word, to have a hit of tennis, because that was the characteristic. Let's go and have a hit of tennis there. It also was that issue that, again, going back into one of my sort of ancient nostalgia things, long before having a swimming pool was the great sort of sign of status.
Yes.
To have a tennis court
Yes.
was you had to be pretty wealthy.
Had to be
because
royalty.
You needed a double block. You needed the sort of at least the 1 acre block, and then another acre block. You'd have a tent, and you were very popular because you could then come over, not a pool party, come over and we'll have a hit of tennis.
Yes.
Lisa from Northlake says the best thing about going to tennis on a Monday night with my dad in the 1980s was having a nice Vovo biscuit.
Oh, that sounds lovely. A hit of tennis.
Wooden tennis rackets.
Maybe if someone had offered me a nice Vovo, I would have been better at tennis.
I can tell you, I have been playing tennis with the same group of guys for 40 years.
Oh.
So we all grew up in the same street. My brother and I, Paul, who, shout out to Paul, he listens every week. You should be doing some work, Paul. But we've been playing tennis every sort of for 40 years now, about once a month. And it's actually difficult to book a tennis court these days. So there is demand for tennis. People are playing tennis.
Well, this is where I think Dr. McFadgen may have hit on something.
But I think it's actually to do with supply, because what's happening is a lot of tennis courts are being turned into pickleball courts around the city. So pickleball is the fastest growing.
Not the same
Pickleball?
thing.
Pickleball is
way.
A lot of Steve. It's the fastest growing sport in Australia currently. I don't play pickleball.
What, from 0 to 100, or from one to no one?
I think if something's coming, I think anything that's starting really for the first time is going to be the fastest growing thing.
And you've just stumped on an old advertising trick that we the fastest growing burger place because you've opened a second shop. But so a lot of the courts are being turned into pickleball courts or open CrossFit gyms. So it's very difficult to book a court these days, and the costs are astronomical. So I'm interested. That $5 an hour court, it sounds like great value.
Whenever I see the CrossFit athletes running up and down the streets when I come to work in the morning, which I'm leaving at 4:45 in the morning, they never look happy.
No, but it's because they're carrying bricks and rolling tyres and being hit with ropes.
Do your children play, or will they play tennis, do you think? Will the next generation play tennis?
My eldest played tennis. We had lessons, but the younger generation, I still think tennis is a
viable thing
for
the up and coming Australians.
This day and age, but it is fighting for space with pickleball and CrossFit.
My guests are Professor Brendan Greene and Dr. Ian McFadgen, neither of whom deserve those qualifications. Brendan's an advertising copywriter and co-founder of the Chimera Project. Dr. Ian McFadgen is not a doctor. He's a writer, actor and television producer and occasional author, sometimes librettist, painter and watcher of train videos.